Hello, my topic for this week is mandatory reporting video assignment. I learned from watching the video on mandated reporting that mandated reporters are usually professionals, but not always that are required by law to report cases of abuse or neglect if they suspect that abuse has occurred or not. Mandated reporters include teachers, hospital aides, and teachers are the most critical in their profession because they are around children all the time, and they are able to notice signs in children who are being abused versus those who are not being abused. Without mandated reporters, the abuse normally continues, causing the victim of abuse to suffer in silence. People who work with victims of abuse have an opportunity to help victims break the silence on abuse so they can heal and begin to live productive lives within society. Mandatory reporting is a very important decision because it can help to save lives. The important points I have learned from researching information on child abuse or neglect, elderly abuse or neglect, includes the following. And the reason why I included both because I work with an agency that not only works with adults, but we work with the elderly population, children, adult population. So it's like an umbrella which includes all forms of people who could be abused. So when it comes to reporting child abuse neglect, the person does not have to be certain that it occurred. Just requires reasonable suspicion that a child has been abused. When it comes to reporting child abuse or neglect, it can be reported both orally and written with the name of the child and his or her whereabouts at the time. Also, parents' names, addresses of where the child is, and a description of the child. Adult or elderly abuse that is reported often occurs among families experiencing stress. When adult or elderly abuse occurs, over 90% of the incidents that are reported to DHR occurred in the home of the victim. Slightly less than 10% of the reported incidents occurred in and out of home settings. When it comes to mandatory reporting in the state of Alabama, all hospitals, clinics, sanitariums, doctors, physicians, surgeons, medical examiners, coroners, dentists, chiropractors, podiatrists, nurses, school teachers, and officials, peace officers, law enforcement officers, pharmacists, social workers, daycare workers, or employees, mental health professionals, members of the clergy, as defined in Rule 505 of the Alabama Rules of Evidence, or any other person called upon to render aid or medical assistance to any child when the child is known or suspected to be a victim of child abuse or neglect, shall be required to report or cause a report to be made of the same, orally, either by telephone or direct communication immediately, followed by a written report to a duly constituted authority. When the Department of Human Resources receives initial report of suspected abuse or neglect involving discipline or corporal punishment committed in a public or private school or suspected abuse or neglect in a state-operated child residential facility, the Department of Human Resources shall transmit a copy of school reports to the law enforcement agency and residential facilities. Reports to the law enforcement agency and the operating state agency, which shall conduct the investigation When the investigation is completed, a written report is conducted and is entered into the Department of Human Resources registry. My field placement is at a recovery center for alcoholics and substance abuse, but we also provide temporary shelter to those who are homeless as well. Our protocol for reporting suspected cases of child abuse or elderly abuse would be to report the abuse and to keep an ongoing record of what transpired if I witnessed the abuse myself or have taken the report of another person who have witnessed the abuse. All reporters must report all forms of abuse, whether child abuse, adult abuse, or elderly abuse. The protocol for reporting suspected cases of elderly abuse or any form of abuse is to allow the person who witnessed the abuse to report the abuse to the social worker or administrative supervisor, including staff supervisor. After the abuse is reported, a report form is filled out and made, and an investigation is formed. If the investigation turns up any information, then the proper authorities or state will be called in. If families report abuse or neglect, they will be provided the information to the state of Alabama. An Alabama state team that evaluates allegations of abuse will then come in and evaluate the situation and signs of abuse or neglect. If the abuse requires a state person to make the report, but I have first-hand knowledge of the abuse or neglect, as a mandated reporter, it is my responsibility to report the abuse anyway. As a social worker, I have a responsibility to protect my clients, and I have a responsibility as a social worker to uphold the NASW Code of Ethics at all times. My question for the week is, what is some of your agency's protocol when it comes to reporting abuse? Thank you.